hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild with me, your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Owygen? Brave the Wild is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps and on the Hockey Podcast Network. I thank Dylan and Kyle once and always for having me on board that great network with a lot of great hockey podcasts like Devil's State of Mind for the New Jersey Buffalo Sabres, some other great shows on there, the Sharks. You can find all the different podcasts representing the National Hockey League on there, just like this one for the Minnesota Wild. Well, obviously the Minnesota Wild are not playing. The postseason's continuing. So that's kind of what we're going to focus on a bit. A little bit of kind of playoff update. And, of course, fan interaction. I'd like to hear what some of you have to say, some questions and such. So you're going to kind of carry me when it comes to the Minnesota Wild today for the most part, other than Brock Faber is a Calder Cup finalist, and he deserves to be, or Calder Trophy finalist, which is a better way of putting it, Calder Trophy finalist. Now that I'm repeating myself way too much, Brock Faber again played all 82 games, scored 8 goals at 13.9 assists. He was a +1 on a team that was up and down throughout the season. Brock Faber's role was limited a little bit because of broken ribs secretly during the later stages of the season. Mid to later stages of the season. He's waiting for that to heal now. That's basically what he said. So he'll probably be a little more inactive, at least in the early stages here of the offseason, to let those ribs heal. So, yeah, just imagine if he didn't have broken ribs or cracked ribs during the later stages of the season. Faber might have had closer to 55, 60 points because his power play role would have been increased and such. So the fact that he was able to play through all of those games, despite the cracked ribs, equally impressive to what an amazing rookie year it truly was. Again, a career high as a junior with the Minnesota Gophers last year, 27 points. Think about that. Again, that's actually pretty productive for only 38 games, and a guy not on the power play. So that could and should have probably been an early indicator that there is some offensive capability in Brock Faber when you consider 27 points without being on the power play for the Minnesota Gophers. So again, obviously his time on ice was pretty high for a team like that. Does Brock Faber deserve the Calder Trophy? Absolutely. So it's Hughes with the New Jersey Devils, Devil's State of Mind, of course, and Connor Bedard with the Chicago Blackhawks, the other two finalists. Hopefully Brock Faber will get it, but odds obviously favor Connor Bedard. A great season, of course, even though missing a significant amount of time with a broken jaw. A team that's obviously still bottom feeding and might have the number 1 pick again. So we'll see what happens with the Minnesota Wild in that. We'll probably have a brief update with that, or we'll talk about the update of where the Wild will actually pick, which is probably around 12th anyway. But you never know. I guess there's always a small chance the Wild move up, which would be pretty amazing. Kind of like after the lockout, the Wild got the 4th pick, and of course, Dumpster Doug managed to be Dumpster Doug when it came to the draft. He was good at sometimes finding those little miracle finds out there, like the Pascal Dupuis of the world and such, and Dwayne Rolliston. Those were good finds. Those undrafted free agent type of players that were just basically free agents. He was good at that type of stuff. But draft, he stunk. Trades, he stunk. And that's why he was Dumpster Doug. So how he kept his job for 10 years is beyond me. If you disagree with me, I'd like to hear why, honestly. It'd be a pretty interesting response, I'm sure, at the end of the day. Also, I did put out the newest video game flashback, Castle of Illusion for Sega Genesis starring Mickey Mouse. So check that out if you like retro video games. Of course, there's a retro video game vibe to the show, as you can often hear in the bumper music and the ending music and such. Also, we have the massive disruption, so to speak, with Bally Sports North. One way or another, I would hope and pray that the Minnesota Wild will be on air one way or another come October when the time comes. Everything's national at this point anyway, second round, and first round for the most part in the National Hockey League. Basketball, same thing. Some teams have advanced to the second round already, so the Timberwolves, of course, not affected by the Bally Sports North situation. It ended just, that contract thing happened just in time, basically, with Xfinity anyway. It happened just in time for the Timberwolves to advance past the Phoenix Suns, and then of course the second round is all national TV, TNT, ESPN, ABC, which is also ESPN basically. So, or ESPN is basically ABC. So it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, again, they say the Twins are disappointed by the massive disruption, but of course, it's kind of the Twins kind of made their bed and are sleeping in it for so many reasons, the payroll, this and that. I know you're not here to talk about the Minnesota Twins necessarily, but maybe a lot of you actually are Twins fans as well. And you never know, this type of interesting Diamond Sports, Comcast, Xfinity type of stuff could affect the Minnesota Wild. One way or another, like could be a totally new direction. That's affecting the Wild, right? Maybe they're with Amazon somehow, Amazon Prime, which eventually might lead me to finally cutting the cable one of these days. It's pretty expensive and everything. I like having it, just the convenience of it, because like you have it all right there, and you even have the Xfinity app. It's nice to have, but it's so expensive. I don't know. It's gotten ridiculously expensive. Obviously, the streaming route for this and that isn't always the best, and you just cannot count on like the free streaming stuff. It's up and down. It works sometimes, it doesn't work sometimes, and it's not particularly honest either, that type of thing. So obviously the that's the free streaming stuff. The paid streaming stuff, sometimes that goes away on you too. Like, oh, it's available on Fubo or whatever. For how long? And how much other crap am I going to pay for on Fubo anyway? before that gets too expensive. So I haven't signed up for a whole lot of streaming entities historically, like say ESPN Plus I'm signed up for, but the app is like bullcrap right now on my Android phone, so I'm not sure what to say about that. Every single time I try to load a live NHL playoff game, I get told to sign into my provider, and then I sign into the provider, and what happens? Well, the same thing that happens when the Wild go on the penalty kill. Nothing good. Nothing happens. It says, okay, sign in again. Okay, I signed in. Everything's ready to go. Nope, you got to sign in again. What the hell? So, I don't know. And I've reinstalled the app, and I'm still having the same issues. So, maybe I'm just an idiot, but I'm not sure what else to say about that. Okay, let's get to the playoffs. But, so TV is definitely an issue, obviously. What's the most important part about watching a hockey game or being a hockey fan? Well, being able to bleep and watch it, because I'm not going to, I can't afford to go to the games, and I don't have credentials at this point. I'd like to, but someday, but right now I do not have media credentials and all of that. My schedule will have to completely change, though it would be even nicer to actually have a job that involves credentials for the NHL and watching the Minnesota Wild and all that in person and commenting after the game and maybe live video or whatever, or live audio, but maybe a video too. Okay, I'll shut up about that. On to the National Hockey League playoffs. This will be a 2-segment show. The Florida Cup. The Florida Panthers win the Florida Cup in just 4 games over the Tampa Bay Lightning, 4-1 in the series. A fairly comfortable win. I was kind of leaning that way. I thought maybe it would last a little longer, if I remember correctly. The series was, again, up and down. Tampa didn't win until game 3, so that's kind of how that goes. They won 6-3 though, pretty impressive fashion. But Florida pretty much took care of business when it came to the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is insanely impressive actually. And my prediction still stands: the Florida Panthers will win the Stanley Cup this year. Boston Bruins and Toronto. Toronto's kind of delaying the inevitable, I think, at the end of the day. Not that Boston is so great; it's that Toronto is a playoff choke historically. The Toronto Maple Leafs trail the series to the Boston Bruins, 3-2. That would mean game number 6 is in Toronto to try to force a game 7. So we'll see how that turns out. I believe that game is today. 7 p.m. So we'll hear about that on DraftKings when I do that ad. Game 7, if necessary, would be May the 4th be with you, of course. That's the same day as the Kentucky Derby. As much as, you know how much I like the Kentucky Derby? I like to see the race. It lasts about, 2.5 minutes or something. All the stuff leading up to it, you can take that and you can Xfinity it. You can Diamond Sports it. Oh, sorry, it's not available. Oh, darn. Well, I got something else to watch anyway. Oh, my God. How long can you talk about it? Just get on with the race already. Like, we're talking hours and hours and hours about this horse and this jockey. I couldn't care less. I'd rather talk about the weather in Cambodia in 1974. Honestly. I really would. Anyhow, Boston won game 1, 5-1. Toronto did win game 2, 3-2. Boston 4-2. Game 3. Boston made it a 3-1 lead with a 3-1 win. Toronto staying alive with a win in overtime, 2-1, to extend the series. And we'll see. Maybe Toronto will pull off something crazy. Maybe they'll pull a Minnesota Wild in 2003, because we're not doing that right now, are we? The Rangers make quick business of the Washington Capitals. Yeah, whatever. Capitals are, I don't know. Didn't Ovechkin have 0 points in that series for like the first time of his career? So that's pretty sad. I think it's time. Is it disrespectful to say? I think, whatever, but I guess he's got to chase Gretzky or something, right? I don't know. Like, yay. He's not better than Wayne Gretzky. I'm sorry. He's not better than Wayne Gretzky. And if you think he is, sure. Okay, you must have been born in 2002 or something. I don't know about that. 4-0 win by the New York Rangers. Gretzky played there, And they'll be facing off against the Carolina Hurricanes in round 2, who made pretty quick work of the New York Islanders as well. So that would be the cross-town rival, New York Islanders, basically. It's a rivalry more so with the fans than the teams. I'm sure there's a rivalry with the teams to a point, but a 4-1 comfortable series victory by the Carolina Hurricanes, who will again play the Rangers in round 2. Florida is awaiting the winner between Boston and Toronto. I do expect Boston to win, but Florida ultimately to come out of the Eastern Conference, possibly over Carolina, because we'll see how the President's Trophy winners do at the end of the day. The only game the Islanders won was actually again, it's like a couple teams stayed alive, basically, in Game 4. 2 overtimes, the Islanders stay alive, but then Carolina takes care of the business in the next game and wraps up the series with a 6-3 win. Decisive victory, just to say, time to go, guys. Mike Riley, the former Gopher and Minnesota Wild, believe it or not, who couldn't play defense for his life in the national championship game versus Union, and I'm still not bitter about that. I wasn't bitter then, and I'm not bitter now at all. He did score a goal in the game to open up the scoring, and, Carolina took care of business after that in a big way. Carolina versus the Rangers, round 2. I will stick with my pick. Carolina Hurricanes advance to play the Florida Panthers in a Southeast matchup. Florida Panthers versus Carolina Hurricanes. That sounds just like hockey, doesn't it? Sounds kind of like that. Florida versus Carolina. Well, we'll see. Either you get the New Yorkers versus the retired New Yorkers in Florida, with that New York accent, or the Hick accent. We'll see. Florida has both Hicks and New Yorkers there. Old retired New Yorkers moving to Florida. Anyhow, Western Conference, Dallas and Vegas, the feature presentation, right? Well, I thought Vegas was up to this. They were up 2-0, beating the Dallas Stars in Dallas. But ever since then, it's been all Dallas. And they've been close games, too. That's the annoying part. Vegas is up 2-0, 2-1, this and that, and they end up blowing it. It's just like, come on, guys. So I know you can't root for them, and you hate the Vegas Golden Knights because they circumvent the cap, and they've been good since day one. I know. Well, they circumvent things with that LTIR type of deal, long-term injured reserve type of thing. I know, but I still am a fan of the Vegas Golden Knights just because, I don't like that they did that. But I guess if you're not going to do anything about it, NHL, then whatever, I guess, if the Golden Knights can find a way to work around things. But I don't know. Hopefully they do stop that and fix that. That would probably be better for the integrity of the game. It's crazy to think the Vegas Golden Knights, if they could have won the overtime game in their hometown there in game number 3, they would have been up 3-0 in the series, and that more than likely would have wrapped things up eventually, even if it did get extended to game 6 with the Stars winning a couple. But I guess this series is not meant to be. If Vegas somehow wins this now, I'd be quite surprised. Pete DeBoer getting revenge on his former club, and it's a bummer. Cassidy, unfortunately, maybe on the outside. Obviously, I don't think his job's in any danger whatsoever. They weren't supposed to win the series, but man, they almost pulled off a pretty amazing upset, and I kind of frankly wish they did. It's a darn shame. Vegas Golden Knights, again, going up 4-3 impressive win in Dallas, then a 3-1 win. I was like, this is great. Lost the overtime game, and then Dallas pretty much kind of pulled away after Vegas was up 2-1 in game number 4. And then, of course, the most recent one, Vegas again. I believe they were up 2-1 in that one and ended up blowing it. And the Stars took a 3-2 lead, unfortunately. And, tonight, game 6, we'll see. Can Vegas stay alive now? Going from 2-0 to staying alive. Yikes. Otherwise, Game 7 would be on May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo, on Sunday in Dallas, Texas. We'll see if the Knights can survive, but unfortunately it might be Good Night with a K for the Golden Knights, and then they'd have to play the Colorado Avalanche, I do believe, in round number 2. So that would be an epic matchup between the Stars, most likely, and the Colorado Avalanche. And the winner of that series will go to the Stanley Cup Finals, and lose to the Florida Panthers, in my humble opinion. We'll have to wait and see how that turns out. Edmonton Oilers, they took care of the Los Angeles Kings. They're now up 4-1. Edmonton Oilers, obviously, it's an impressive team. They've had some great moments. They're kind of like the Twins with their, long win streak. We'll see if the Twins can do anything. Because, just in time for Xfinity and Diamond Sports / Bally Sports to get into their contract dispute or their dispute. Their contract dispute, basically, and leave the fans in the dark with Xfinity. 10-game win streak. It's funny. Crazy how the Twins are on a 10-game win streak. Edmonton had a double-digit win streak this year after starting off really awful. So they've been generally good, but are they a team that scares me to win a Stanley Cup? Sure, they can, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening. I just don't. They're kind of like the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of I'll believe it when I see it. They've had more playoff success than the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is saying something, I guess. Which is saying a lot more about the Maple Leafs, generally speaking, because the Oilers, they might advance and stuff, but then after that, well, things don't usually work out too well. Vancouver Canucks, it's been a good series, but at the same time, I haven't kept up with this one as much as some of the others. Vancouver, it's kind of been a back and forth. That's what's good. Like, Nashville's very competitive for the most part. Vancouver won Game 1 4-2. Nashville made it with a 4-1 win, considered convincing win to get take home ice advantage. Vancouver reclaimed it, and then took a 3-1 lead. And then Nashville, in Minnesota Wild fashion, wins a close one in Game number 5 in Vancouver to stay alive, to force Game 6 in Nashville. So this series might go 7. We'll see if Andrew Brunette can pull off some of that miracle magic there, that 3-1 magic. Unfortunately, he can't be out there to score the game-winning goal versus Vancouver to end things. And again, how obviously Brunette's club beat Vancouver in a 3-1 deal, but of course Brunette's goal was against the Avalanche. It was Darby Hendrickson who had that historic goal to put the Minnesota Wild farther than they've ever been, where no Minnesota Wild player has gone before. That's what it was, and no Minnesota Wild player has been back since. Otherwise, Vancouver's staying alive. I'm probably thinking Vancouver wins the series, and they most likely will. Edmonton, Vancouver, you get an all-Canadian conference semifinal or division final, you could say. Divisional series, conference final, whatever you want to call it. It's Pacific Division Championship, and then you have the Central Division Championship, so to speak, between the Stars and the Colorado Avalanche, which I do think is going to be the deal. I don't think Vegas is going to pull it off, unfortunately, and I don't think Nashville will either. Vancouver, so again, right now I'm sticking with Florida versus Boston. Florida wins that series in 5 or 6. Yep. And then the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Rangers in 7. Incredible fashion. Florida gets past Carolina in 5. They're just going to be dominant, I think. Florida's got a chance to be special. Go to the Stanley Cup Final, where, again, the Stars in Colorado, that's a 7-game series. Dallas Stars edge Colorado in 7, and one of the best series of all time, I think. That was a conference final way back in 99, when the Stars, 98, and I think 99 as well, where the Stars got past a great Avalanche team to win the Stanley Cup. And nope, it was 99. It was all 99. 98 they lost because Nieuwendyk got injured by Brian Marchment, I believe. Son of a blank, like a knee injury. Joe Nieuwendyk. Yep, I still remember 98. President's Trophy team that couldn't get it done, but 99. Stars got past the Avalanche and beat the Buffalo Sabres to win the Stanley Cup. Anyhow, Edmonton, I think they're going to beat Vancouver. I think they are going to beat Vancouver, but then the Stars kill them in like 5 games, 4 or 5 games, unfortunately. And then it's Florida-Dallas. That'll be a 6 or 7 game series. Florida Panthers are the Stanley Cup champions in, I don't know. That's a tough one. Florida Panthers in 7 to win the Stanley Cup. It'll be a back-and-forth series where Florida kind of pulls away in that 7th game. It'll be kind of like St. Louis and Boston years ago. It's going to be something like that, where Florida will be the St. Louis Blues, basically, in a lot of ways, but not as much of an underdog as St. Louis may have kind of felt like, but they were on such a roll during that postseason. And Florida with 110 points is no damn underdog. I think they win their first cup, and Michael Russo, eat your heart out. That's a club he had. Other than the New York Islanders, he was with the Florida Panthers for a long time, and all of that. So we'll see. I'm sure he's gonna feel pretty good about that. It'll be a nice experience. They got killed by the Avalanche years ago in '96 when they went on their miracle run. They just ran into a freight train, unfortunately. It'd be cool to see like a rematch and then Florida win it. That might happen. That's the second most likely scenario, in my opinion. The least most likely scenario is like Boston, Vancouver, a rematch of the 2011, but who knows? Wouldn't that be something? Or even Edmonton would be very unlikely. Heck, I mean, Vancouver's actually better than Edmonton, but I think Edmonton will will ride the momentum to the conference final, but then get crushed by Colorado or Dallas in 5 games, basically. But Florida ends up winning the cup in 7, one way or another, in my humble opinion. With that, we're going to take a quick break and then come back for fan interaction. And we are back here on Brave the Wild segment number 2. First, we're going to open things up with DraftKings right here and right now. The chase for the Stanley Cup is on. And if you're looking to light the lamp, nothing beats the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. From the start of the playoff beers all the way till the hoisting of the Stanley Cup, DraftKings Sportsbook have you covered with same-game parlays, live betting, odds, boosts, and so much more. So let's look at the odds here. We're going to go with the money line, of course, Toronto and the Boston Bruins Game 6. It's even, 110 or minus 110 to minus 110. How about that? So good luck with that one. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, Toronto, they might have a little momentum. We'll see. Vancouver is visiting Nashville for Game 6. The Predators are favored, minus 130, and I agree with that. Minus 130. The visiting Vancouver Schmucks are plus 110. Again, this is the money line. Dallas Stars visiting Vegas for Game 6. Go Knights. It's a minus 105 for the Golden Knights, and the visiting Stars minus 115. So slight favor, I guess, for the Dallas Stars. Hurricanes and Rangers already on Sunday, May the 5th. Cinco de Mayo, get your Corona ready, I guess. The Rangers are minus 105. The Carolina Hurricanes are minus 115 on the road. Interesting. So they think so Vegas apparently, the Vegas is, you know what I mean, sees the Carolina Hurricanes winning Game 1. Interesting. So cool, interesting thoughts there. Anyhow, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN for the Hockey Podcast Network, of course. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's code THPN only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. It's void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/ice for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling. Resources copyright NHL 2024. All rights have been reserved. So again, thank you so much, DraftKings. It is a huge pleasure. As for a huge pleasure at Brave the Wild, you don't know how much of a big pleasure it is for me to interact with you out there. First and foremost, I didn't even talk about this in the first segment. Yeah, like Joey's on Thursdays again. Well, yeah, I'm on Thursday, at least for today, because it's raining. It just kind of happened that way, which is funny, actually. Not happy with the way Twitter's spinning around right now. I'm not understanding it. Not understanding at all. There it goes. That was really weird. But yeah, here I'm on Thursday. It's raining out. We'll get the stupid lawn service started maybe before hell freezes over, but I'm not completely sure. Hell just might freeze over first. It just might. I don't know what to say anymore. It's ridiculous. As for, yes, the actual fan interaction, again, at Brave the Wild. And the Instagram, I believe, is BraveTheWild_MN, if I remember correctly. It is in the show description. The Instagram, it has a decent following, considering it's still a pretty darn new account. Yeah, BraveTheWild_MN. But people don't really interact on there yet. It would be nice if you could, and I will probably be doing some reels at some point, maybe like updates and such, though. Yes, people have been liking this post and that post, and I appreciate it. But yeah, don't be afraid to interact if you happen to be more of an Instagram rather than Facebook or Twitter/X. The Facebook account keeps growing and growing and growing, but nobody says anything. It's growing pretty fast. I'm pretty surprised, actually, almost 700. So it sat at around 300 for like years. It was weird. And now it's like, doubled in size. So really appreciate those of you that have been joining. So please say something if you happen to be one of the Facebook followers out there. Unless they just follow and don't actually listen to the show. Dang it. Who retweeted the most recent episode? It's nice to actually acknowledge that, because I really appreciate those of you that do. Vince Germano out of Australia, Derek Felska, Western Wisconsin, and of course, the Crease Assist podcast host. We're going to get to him very shortly. The Hockey Podcast Network, thank you guys so much. And Emin Johan, thank you very much for the repost, as we call it, instead of retweet, I guess. So it's RP instead of RT. Yeah, it's RP instead of RT, anyhow. I was saying Logan Thompson has faced a whole game's worth of shots in 2 periods, yet the game is tied. Vegas Born has a real chance to virtually lock the series up tonight. Logan Thompson was awesome, but unfortunately, Vegas just couldn't score, and the stupid Stars eventually won it in OT, and everything's changed ever since then. Not that Logan Thompson hasn't been arguably the best player on the Golden Knights the whole series, but that's, of course, the goaltender. Unfortunately, though, it's been a complete turnaround, unfortunately. Derek Pelska lightning round begins. At least this is kind of like a reply, but it still counts as the lightning round. It has indeed returned. Dada. So let's get to that right here, right now. As for Logan Thompson, yep, he's played very well, but he's really done that for the last 3 years, while Aiden Hill is who they rode to a Stanley Cup. It was Logan Thompson who kept their hopes alive while they had a rash of injuries between the pipes. Still, Dallas got the last laugh this time, and yes, they did. They got the last laugh. How, 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 how. Yep. So, yes, and of course, Derek. Derek is the host of the Crease Assist podcast with Kalisha Townsell and Teresa Ferris, an amazing show. I don't believe they're gonna be doing a show the next couple of weeks. Obviously busy schedules. I'm just doing this because it's raining out, which I don't think rain affects tennis practice for Derek. So of course busy there coaching tennis, and the Wild are out and all that, that type of thing. But I'm kind of just keeping up with the playoffs, and it's just fun to hear from you as well. Some interactions and such. And I didn't do any interaction last week, so that's the thing. I mean, I did it, but I didn't put out a bat signal, so it kind of minimized the responses and such. So that's kind of how things went. I was saying, boo, I don't like Winnipeg, but I'm tired of Dallas, or tired of the Avalanche. Hopefully they're out in the next round along with their basketball team. Nudge, nudge, hint, hint as to what basketball team I'm talking about and who their basketball team is playing against. Check out Timberwolves Explosion for that. So, Tom Hayen hath returned. Great to hear from Tom Hayen. He says, do you think Jack Edwards is truly a jackass in real life, or is he simply playing one on TV? Probably a combination of both. He probably is both. That's my guess. Obviously, a lot of that TV stuff is an act, but it's a sign of kind of who somebody really is at times. Like, I don't know, some people just love attention, and that's the annoying part. So I can understand that's probably the main part of it, but it does show that he has that side to him. So I'll lean with real life. I will lean with real life on that one. Jay Bushy, great to hear from you again as well. It says Russo has said Yurov is re-signing a $1 5-year deal with his team in the KHL. Your thoughts? It's a bummer, yet at the same time, it kind of feels like it's one of those, it's like the year before, I guess. It's kind of like that. It's like the year before, maybe with too many players under contract kind of in the way, that type of thing. He doesn't want to have like a reduced role with Minnesota. Odds are he's going to probably have a reduced role in the KHL, kind of like kind of like what happened to Marat Huznadinov last year, where he was like, rotting on the fourth line, which is stupid and mean, but that's kind of how they are. Like, we don't care, na boo boo. But then again, why would you want to pay a player to run, who's got talent to run on the bench? It's kind of weird. I don't understand some of that, but I guess that's how they roll over there. They're like, yeah, you're leaving, so screw you. And then Morty says, yes, he now has signed. Yes, and he has for one year, and that does most likely mean Yurov, Danila Yurov, the probably number 2 prospect in the whole organization, will be with the Minnesota Wild next season. So not this coming season, but the year after, summer of 25, as the cap crap opens up. I like to call it the cap crap. Derek Felska lightning round continues. It resumes in action. What do you think has been the biggest NHL playoff surprise so far? The biggest surprise? It was like the Golden Knights for a minute there. Now, well, I guess not. Shoot. Nashville being competitive versus Vancouver is kind of like that. Edmonton crushing LA. Biggest surprise? Maybe the way Colorado just kind of crushed Winnipeg. And it's like Colorado is most likely the better team than Winnipeg, but it's funny how they were considered kind of the semi-underdog in the series because of the 3-2 type of thing. Maybe it's just the way Colorado made mincemeat of Winnipeg. Like Winnipeg just kind of, they just weren't good. They just weren't good enough. Maybe that's kind of the biggest surprise. Otherwise, the fact Dallas is now up 3-2, boring. Toronto and Boston, of course, Boston's ahead. And I don't know, I like Boston just fine. I like Toronto just fine. I don't hate either team. Rangers sweeping Washington is not too surprising. Carolina in 5 games is not surprising. Florida, the way they took care of Tampa as quick as they did, that's probably number 2. Number 1 is I think it is the way Colorado just kind of made mincemeat of Winnipeg. It's surprising to a point. Obviously, Colorado's insanely talented, but still, 4-1 over that team? I kind of thought that was going to go 6 or 7, but 4-1. It's crazy. Edmonton making mincemeat of, well, not making mincemeat, but beating LA pretty good. 4-1 is semi-surprising as well, but I'll stick with Colorado. I'm being very long-winded again. But that's how we are here on Brave the Wild. What chances do you give, this is Derek again, what chances do you give former Minnesota Wild coach Dean Evason at landing another NHL head coaching job before the start of the 24-25 season? I'd say it's over 50%. It sounds like, like 2 of the major finalists with Ottawa are Craig Berube and Dean Evason. I would say Evason is a nice landing spot for Evason is Ottawa, and they're a team that's kind of developing, and I guess that's kind of sort of Dean Evason to a point. And a lot of us are hoping and praying that he could take Freddie Gaudreau off our hands. I'm guessing that won't happen just because it's as Minnesota as it gets. Oh, here we go. This is our opportunity. And it's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. I didn't, I know Bill Guerin signed him for me, but that's okay. Yeah. The Ottawa GM isn't interested. Of course not. Of course he isn't. And then a lot of people think Craig Berube, who, again, if I was the Ottawa coach, I'd probably be more likely to, I think Craig Berube is just better, but Craig Berube's a win now kind of guy, and talk is of Craig Berube probably going to Toronto, with the pending likelihood of Toronto possibly making a coaching change if they're out in the first round again. If they go on some crazy run here, well, they're probably not going to make a coaching change, but Craig Berube could be the Toronto coach, and that might be the one that maybe helps get them over the hump for the first time in 55 years or so for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we'll have to wait and see with that. Going all the way back to LBJ as president of Estados Unidos. Morty jumps back in at N-Star fan, of course, and I love that logo. He says 100% he should be hired immediately. Okay, I just want him to take Gaudreau ASAP wherever he lands. I agree, Marty, 1,000%. I do too. Otherwise, Freddie Gaudreau will be a 5-year fourth liner And that's about it. Because putting Goudreau over the fourth line, I think is weird, and that's absolutely necessary. Because you have like everybody's hurt, like the classic Warren Peters year back in 2011 when the Wild had literally nobody. Because of course Koivu was injured along with like everybody else that year. It was the stupidest nonsense ever, where he went from a team that was like first place possibly to like Warren Peters is one of your main centers. Warren Peters, we've all got his albums. Yeah, I know. Lightning round continues. You are doing an episode on Video Game Flashback on the Sega Genesis's Castle of Illusion. Yes, I am. Well, it's done now. And the next one is going to be Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But yes, it has just been released. Excuse me. Do the Minnesota Wild live in their own Castle of Illusion? Yes, I like that. In regards to how fast they will be able to turn themselves into a Stanley Cup contender or not. Yeah, it is the Castle of Illusion. It's like how Mickey Mouse goes from, he gets in the castle, and you have to go through all these levels to get the gems or whatever first. Like you open the door and, the Parisi suitor situation. Okay. We signed Foligno for 4 more years. Okay, that's the next door. Now we signed, it's a Castle of Illusion, all right. We signed Goudreau to 5 years. What's going to happen here? Da, 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 da. The cute little music and Mickey Mouse with the cute little smile and everything. As adorable as a game that can be, it's not for kids necessarily. It could be for teenagers or adults as well. It's not as kiddie of a game as people might think. It's really not, actually. It's a very well-made platformer, just so those of you know. It's just the one kiddie kind of funny thing that I always get a kick out of is that Mickey Mouse is constantly smiling, no matter how dramatic the situation is. He is constantly smiling and holding, kind of like folding his hands behind his back, like, it'll be okay, It's kind of funny. Maybe that's Bill Guerin right now with the, we'll be fine with all these veterans, that we've signed for too long, and it's blocking the way for other people. That is an awesome example, Derek. Awesome. Yeah, you go to the next door. Another door. What's in here? Oh, Goudreau signed for 5 years. Crap. Oh, Ryan Hartman signed for 3 more, also at $4 million. That's the next door, Zuccarello, 2 more, no move clause. Yeah, we're going to even keep, Flower, which isn't the worst thing ever. It's just 1 year. But still, it is kind of funny. That is an amazing, awesome comparison. The Castle of Illusion. The Minnesota Wild Castle of Illusion. So my answer is yes. Yeah. Do they live in their own Castle of Illusion in regards to how fast they'll be able to turn themselves into a... Yes, in a lot of ways. The hope is, again, the gems at the end. When you get through all that, the gems in the end are the Liam Mugrins, Danila Urov. Those are the gems. And when you get all the gems, you can finally get that rainbow to get to the real castle and try to win the Stanley Cup. That's the hope. You overcome all that other crap and get the gems at the end, like Urov and Volstead, I guess, or Volsteed, Ogren, maybe Riley Heights, one of the gems. I hope he is for both of our sakes. Brock Faber was the first gem that we got, so at least we got him when we got through the Illusionary Woods or whatever. The Enchanted Forest, I guess it's called. So he was the first gem. That was Brock Faber. That's level 1 right there. Now we already got that gem, but now we got to get the rest of them, hopefully. Maybe another good defenseman. Lightning round continues. Bally Sports North just dropped everything on May 1st. May Day. Yep. What was your favorite memory of the station, and do you think this will push the NHL one step closer to a streaming-only platform? And if so, would it be beneficial or detrimental to the league? Well, beneficial generally speaking, because I guess that's what the young people want to do, and cable's very expensive. This is, like cable, Xfinity and all them, I don't know. There may have to be changes with the way cable TV operates. It's convenient and nice, but there's too many channels that you don't watch, that type of thing, and you pay a fortune for all of them. That's the thing. I think generally it's beneficial. Generally, if they go with the them being the NHL, go with the streaming only platform, that might be the best way to go at the end of the day. It's funny though, like the whole streaming thing, that eventually does add up. Say if you have like 10 streaming apps, again, you're paying 10 for this, and you're paying 20 for that, and 10 for this one, and 15 for that one, and 17 for that one, and of course the price goes up maybe every year or every other year and you end up paying the same amount as you would for cable anyway, or close to it. But then cable's going up all the time too. I think at the end of the day, we're all screwed. We're all screwed the way the economy is. So, but unless you're insanely frugal and you just only have a couple. But I will say beneficial. Long answer, longer. Beneficial. At the end of the day, just because that's probably the way the things are going at the end of the day. A couple more, it looks like. Yep, two more. A number of teams have already advanced to the second round of the NHL playoffs. Florida, Carolina, Colorado, and the New York Rangers. What has stood out to you as the common denominator of those teams, and how far do the Minnesota Wild seem to be away from it? Seems to be like a go get 'em, I guess, if that's okay to say. Like, just kind of like a killer instinct, take no prisoners. Like, that type of thing, especially Colorado and Florida so far. They seem to be the most. New York, I think, had by far the easiest matchup. Like, Washington just isn't it anymore. And Carolina, honestly, just kind of took care of business against a team that was talented but inferior, that type of thing. Florida and Colorado, I mean, if the two most likely teams out of those four to meet in the Cup final, it's Florida, Colorado by a mile. Obviously Colorado is the only Western Conference team there, sorry, but still, they might beat the Stars, and if they do, they go to the final. Like, the winner of that series, that potential series, if the Stars do end up finishing off the Knights, it will be they'll win the Western Conference and go to the final. But to me, it's a killer instinct, and the Wild seem like a million miles from it. But, well, maybe not a million, but they seem quite a distance away, honestly. There needs to be more of a killer instinct with the Minnesota Wild, and it's completely lacking. That, to me, is the common denominator at the end of the day. I'm not ultra analytical with things, but to me, it's killer instinct, the whole eye test type of thing. And that's what I'm seeing out of those four. The next thing, NESN's Jack Edwards called the officials cowards over a perceived miscall against his beloved Boston Bruins. He also recently announced his soon-to-be retirement. After he's gone, who is the most biased broadcaster in the NHL currently? I'm not sure, honestly. There probably is like an obvious one, but oftentimes, I swear, I tend to oftentimes, I guess I don't pay close enough attention to some of that. Like, I often have the sound off. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm watching the games closely, and then I'll have the sound back on. It's kind of just the way things are, how I'm keeping up with things. So, otherwise, the most biased broadcaster in the NHL is probably if it could be anybody, like, I don't mean like national, if it could be local, it's Anthony LaPanta in a lot of ways. He's definitely a homer, and I know Michael Russo was like getting really irritated time and time again. It's funny to listen to. Like, Anthony, you can't be serious. He's just like freaking out. He wants to like choke him, and it's fun to listen to, man. When you hear Michael Russo getting insanely frustrated with how Anthony LaPanta tends to sugarcoat every little thing under the frickin' sun when it comes to the Minnesota Wild. Like, and even to a point of like signing a veteran for like multi-year contracts and such. Like, no, dude, we've done enough of that already. Where Russo was like beside himself. And it's very entertaining to listen to. It's been about 2 or 3 episodes in a row now where Russo just like erupts for about 3 or 4 minutes with the back and forth with Anthony LaPanta. It's fun to listen to, honestly. That's, of course, the Worst Seats in a House podcast. So, if it could be any announcer, it's probably LaPanta for that reason. He just sugarcoats everything. I know it's a lame, low-hanging fruit answer, but again, because the sound is off a lot for me. Not because I have anything against the announcers, but I don't know. Usually, it's like late at night, and my wife might be trying to sleep, that kind of thing, or I'm catching up with things, and I'm kind of crazy, and I'm a multitasker as well. Like maybe listening to podcasts and such while watching games. So that's kind of why. But LaPanta's as biased as it gets because of that. So, yeah, it's Anthony LaPanta, bottom line. So that will conclude the fan interaction segment, and I really appreciate it. Great questions. Those are awesome. A lot of fun. The Castle of Illusion, and even this most recent one was great as well. Again, thank you, all of you, for interacting with the show. I really appreciate it. Again, shout-outs to Minnesota Wild Global, of course, MNW Young Guns / MNW Prospects, Pavel Bennett, Justin Bakke. Really love you guys. You do a wonderful job keeping up with the Wild prospects and bringing us hope to the future of the franchise, because we're going to need those prospects to be successful in the future, to get out of this castle of illusion and cross that rainbow into the real castle, into the Stanley Cup Finals someday. So that's the hope. That's again reference to Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion, walking on the rainbow to get to the the real ending type of thing. So yes, where am I going? Other shout-outs, Minnesota Wild Nation, Patrick Turner out of Florida. Again, Minnesota Wild Global, Scott Cavendish, Chad Walski, Michael Fick. Obviously, Pavel Bennett's on there as well. Of course, Justin Bakke's there. Kathy Main, David Abraham, David and Chance Kostek. Awesome. So I really appreciate all of you very much. Again, Justin Bakke's also on the Sound the Foghorn podcast. He does a wonderful job there as well. So with that said, thank all of you so much for listening. So we'll see. The schedule's going to be what it is. Random releases, rainy days and Sundays type of thing. And eventually we'll do the State of the Wild. That's usually in June every year. Second, third, fourth week of June, State of the Wild comes out. Actually, it's usually earlier because it's usually before the draft. It's like a draft preview mixed in. Same with Timberwolves Explosion. With that said, thank you again for listening, and we will be back hopefully sooner than later.